How's it going, everybody? Today I'm going to be removing my monsoon radio in my 2008 Grand Prix. This method works for all radios, regardless of what type of radio, for all the 04 and up Grand Prix. It's fairly simple, takes probably about 5 minutes to get it out, and only requires a couple of tools. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so to get this job done, we're going to need two tools. We're going to need a flathead screwdriver, really short if you can get one that's shorter, and a Phillips head screwdriver, medium size, and that's for the screws that are holding some of this together. So let's get started. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to get this outer trim piece off. It's rather easy to do. Just grab a hold of it from the bottom here and just pull towards you. Really easy. And some people actually choose to get this off first. I just grab a hold of it while I'm pulling the rest of the trim off. Just put your thumb over it like this and just pull out, and then this will release rather easily. And now we can get the rest of this off. Just gently pull out or pull towards you until it's released. Now it's free floating. So if you have a 2006 or greater Grand Prix, then you will have a passenger airbag indicator, as well as your either 3 or 5 button driver information center. Both of those need to be detached. The harness needs to be disconnected. So the easiest way to do this, what I've found, is you can see there's one harness right back here. Try to get the right angle for this. And the easiest thing that I found to do is to just take this and pull out. You should be doing this with 2 hands. I've got one on the camera. Just pull out on it. This should release just fine, like that. Okay, rather easily. And then this one here is a little bit more difficult because of the room. Now then, because this angle is so awkward and you need to be able to get your finger or thumb or something behind here to release this, what I like to do, and it only takes a couple seconds longer, is I like to get the 2 Phillips head screws that are holding this airbag indicator on, and I like to remove those. That way I can pull the entire trim piece away, and then I can flip this around any way I want to and be able to get the harness off that way. It's actually a much easier way of doing it. So you've got 2 Phillips head screws that are on the inside here. There's one right there. There's another one on the other side. Just remove those, and this thing should come apart. Alright, so now I've disconnected the airbag indicator with the 2 screws. Now this thing is freely floating. Alright, so now we have more or better access to the passenger airbag indicator. And you can see there's not much room. They did not leave hardly any room in here for you to be able to do this while it's attached to the trim. So now that that's away, and I have big fingers, so that's probably why. But I'll try to focus in on this right here. So what you basically do is you push down on this portion right here, and this releases the tension on the tab that's under there. You may be able to see that. So once you've pushed down on this, then you should be able to pull out. I'll have to do it with 2 hands. But once you've applied pressure to this end right here, you should be able to release it. Alright, the passenger airbag indicator has now been disconnected. Pretty simple. Really not all that much to it. So that's it for that. Alright, so in order to get to the radio, we actually need to remove the center dash compartment as well as the HVAC controls, and then we can get to the radio. What they did, you can see here, is they overlapped. They overlapped each one of these. So in order to get the top one out, you need to get the middle and the bottom one out. So let's go ahead and do that right now. It just requires a Phillips head screwdriver, and you've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 screws in total. So you can go ahead and remove all of those right now if you wanted to. Alright, so all 8 screws have been removed, and before we can start removing anything else, we need to get the car in gear. And the reason is because of this shifter lever that is in the way. So what we're going to do here is we're going to engage our parking brake. That's very important. And what you want to do is you want to turn the ignition to on, foot on the brake, bring it all the way back to either M, or in your case it might be 1 if you don't have tap shift. And then we have full access to be able to start removing these. So this bottom one, this compartment here, comes out real easy. I mean, really, that's it. There's not much to that. We'll set that aside. The HVAC controls that are in the middle here come out rather easy, and you can see that there's two harnesses here that actually come off real easy. There's a pressure point here that you can lift this tab and release it, and then what I like to use for the other one is my flat blade screwdriver, and I just wedge it up underneath there and pull it up and then release the harness. I'm going to do this with two hands to get these both out. Alright, HVAC controls are now out, so pretty simple, not much to that. I have another video on replacing all the bulbs on the inside of this with LEDs. You can check that out. So we'll set that aside, and now we can get to the actual Monsoon radio, which slides right out. And you should be using two hands for this, but there's a couple of things back here that you need to be aware of. First of all, you've got your one harness here on the right hand side, which uses one of these tabs that you pull and then bring it out. I'll try to get focused here. So the tab on the back, just push down on it and that'll release it. And the other one, same thing, except this one's in the front. So you just push this blue tab here and then wiggle it back and forth. I'll have to do this with two hands probably to get this out. But anyway, same thing, just push on the tab and then pull out on it. Alright, so that harness is disconnected, and one last thing that we have to disconnect really easily is the antenna that's on this side here. Just pull up on it and it should release on its own just fine. Okay, so now we have a bare dash. There's nothing here. The radio is out. Here's all the different harnesses. There's the antenna. The radio is out. This is what it looks like. This is a stock Monsoon 6-disc changer. Not really much to it actually. Just a standard old radio. And no, you cannot buy one of these on the internet unless you have it programmed to your car. They have that theft lock, which doesn't allow you to just steal them and then put them in anybody's car. So just be aware of that. So if you were changing out your radio and you were putting in a new head unit, this is how you get the old one out. Rather simple. There's your harnesses back there. Really easy to do. In my case, I need to do some repair on this one, so that's why I have mine out. So alright, we'll go ahead and skip ahead to the reinstall. Alright, so now it's time to get the radio back in, and what I'm actually going to do is take you through the process step by step. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to hook up all the cable connections. Okay, so one thing I should probably note before I go any further is that this cable here and this cable here are identical. They will fit in one another. So you have to be aware of that. This is for the driver information center. This is for your airbag indicator, okay? They're the two tallest wires, and they're also about the same length as you can see here. The other harness that goes to the radio is bunched up with this main harness right here. So while it is easy to make the mistake of plugging this one into this by accident, it would be a little bit more difficult because the length here would not allow this one to reach the driver information center. So you would get all the way to the end and realize, oh crap, it won't reach, and then make that mistake. So just be aware of that. Okay, so when doing this, you may find that it actually doesn't go all the way back in. You're thinking, well, what's the problem? Well, the problem is the fact that the cables behind there are actually blocking it from being able to enter. There's a little notch back there that's on the back of the radio that goes into the dash. These wires back here, you can see that I have one harness there that's blocking that from happening. So you have to, while you're moving it in there, use your other hand and move the wires out of the way. It can be a little tedious, but it's not really all that difficult. Okay, so with the radio back in, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to install the two top screws again. That's to hold the radio in. I can't install the two bottom screws yet, just the top screws. That'll hold it in so that when I'm plugging everything else in, this thing doesn't just fall, and it will happen. Gravity will have a way of taking it down for you. So go ahead and get the two top ones in. Top screws are in, radio is secure. Now we can get the HVAC controls back in. Simple, just plug them in. And you can't mess these two up. They're unique to each other, so they're not going to be, you won't accidentally put this one on the other side. So go ahead and plug those two back in, and then we'll slide the HVAC controls back in. Harnesses are plugged back in, and you can see there's two notches here on each side They go into the 2 holes that are on the side of the radio. Just line them up. I mean, there's really not much to it at all. Just line them up like that, and then we can go ahead and put these 2 screws in, and then these 2 screws in. Alright, so now that we have the HVAC controls back in, the screws are back in, we can go ahead and get our cubby compartment back in. Just like the HVAC, there's little notches here on the end that line up with these holes here, and you just basically line it up, slide it in. Now we can get the last 2 screws in. Alright, so the compartment is back in, so we're going to go ahead and put it back to park. We're going to remove the keys and set those aside. Now before we put the trim back on, what we need to do is we need to reinstall with the screws this airbag indicator. We need to do that first. Alright, so this is fairly easy. Just make sure that it's facing the right direction. It looks like it's actually directional only, so you won't have to worry about that. It'll only go in one way. So just set it in there. Take your 2 Phillips head screws and just go ahead and put them back in. And then this part will be all done. Alright, so now what we can do is we can go ahead and plug the driver information center in, as well as the airbag indicator. And my driver information plug actually went down here underneath this vent. Get this out. There we go. Alright, so that's going to require 2 hands, but you basically just move it into place as best as you can, you know, like this. And then you reach back there and you basically plug them in, and that's it. Okay, both are plugged in. Now they're both plugged in, so we can go ahead and line the trim back up and start to push it back in. It doesn't take too much force, just a little bit. And just a little bit. And now we can go ahead and put our keyhole cover on. Again, you can't put this in wrong. You can't put it in wrong any way that you try. It'll only go in one way, which is right there. Just push it back into place. And that's it. We are all set. We successfully removed and replaced our monsoon radio. This will work with all of the radios all across the board for the 04 Plus Grand Prix. And yeah, if you have any questions, definitely let me know. So take care, guys.